Jonas Hale stood quietly in the center of the large hangar, trying to keep his hands from shaking. He was only a human engineer, a simple worker who fixed machines and repaired broken systems. He was not a soldier, not a diplomat, and certainly not someone who dealt with powerful alien leaders. But today, the Galactic Legion had called for him personally. No one explained why. They simply said his name, ordered him to report, and marched him to the hangar with no further details. All around him, huge warships rested like sleeping giants, their metal frames glowing under bright lights. Alien officers walked back and forth, their voices sharp as they issued commands. Jonas felt small among them. Humans were new to the galactic stage, and most species still saw them as unimportant, harmless, or even laughable. Some aliens respected human curiosity and creativity, but many others used humans as the punchline of small jokes. Jonas tried not to think too much. He stood straight, kept his breathing calm, and hoped that whatever the Legion wanted, it would be quick. Maybe they needed him to fix a machine, or maybe someone filed a complaint about a repair he had done. He was used to those things, but then the hangar doors opened, and everything changed. 4 Legion soldiers walked in, surrounding a tall figure in silver bindings. Her steps were steady even though she was clearly in captivity. Her skin was a shimmering violet blue, and her long, elegant crown-like horns curved back from her head in a regal arc. Even weakened and restrained, she carried herself with a kind of natural authority that made every officer straighten without thinking. Jonas felt the air grow colder as whispers spread through the hangar. That was not just any alien. It was Queen Sarastra of the Valyrian Empire, or rather, what remained of her. Her empire had collapsed months ago after a brutal war with the Legion. Many said she had been betrayed by her own council. Others claimed she had surrendered to save her people. Whatever the truth was, the Legion captured her, removed her powers, stripped her of royal privileges, and kept her alive only as a symbol of victory. Jonas swallowed hard. Why in the world was she here? Why was she being brought to him? Commander Ralvek, a tall reptilian alien with armor plates across his spine, stepped forward and looked down at Jonas with a sharp grin. "Human," Ralvek said, his voice echoing across the hangar. "We have a special task for you." Jonas opened his mouth to speak, but the commander lifted one clawed hand to silence him. "This," he said, pointing toward the Queen, "is your new responsibility." Jonas stared at him in disbelief. "My responsibility? Sir, I think there must be a mistake. I repair machines. I don't guard prisoners." Several soldiers laughed. It was bitter, mocking laughter. They enjoyed his confusion. "There is no mistake," Ralvek replied. "We decided the best caretaker for a fallen queen is the newest, least important species. You humans think you are rising stars, do you not? Then let this be your gift." A gift. It was obvious what this really was. A joke. A harsh one. They wanted to embarrass him and humiliate her at the same time. Giving the last Valyrian queen to a human engineer was meant to show how far she had fallen and how little humans mattered. Sarastra's eyes lifted slowly toward Jonas. They glowed faintly, a soft silver light that held both fatigue and sharp intelligence. She looked at him without anger, without fear, but with a quiet curiosity, as if trying to understand why the Legion chose him. Jonas did not know where to look. He felt heat rise into his face. It wasn't that he pitied her, he simply felt uncomfortable being used as part of someone else's cruelty. "I don't think this is right," Jonas said carefully. "She should be treated with basic respect." One soldier barked out a laugh. "Respect? For her?" Ralvek leaned closer, his voice low and threatening. "Do you challenge our assignment, human?" Jonas knew better than to argue. Humans had no political power here. He shook his head. "No, sir. I will do my duty." The commander smiled, proud of himself. "Good. Take her. Make sure she does not cause trouble. You may use the old engineering suite as her holding area. It is small, but humans do not need much space." Jonas noticed the Queen looking down at the floor now, her shoulders slightly tense. She understood the insult as clearly as he did. The soldiers removed most of her restraints, leaving only a light energy band around her wrists. Jonas gently stepped forward. "This way," he said softly, though he doubted she even understood human language. But to his surprise, she nodded once and followed him. The walk to the engineering suite took several minutes. Jonas kept glancing back, unsure what to say, unsure what she expected of him. The Queen walked silently. Her movements were graceful even though she was tired, and she kept her gaze focused straight ahead. When they reached the suite, Jonas unlocked the door and motioned her inside. The room was small but clean. There was a metal bench, a control terminal, and a repair table stacked with tools. It was meant for machines, not people. But at least it was private. Jonas stood awkwardly by the entrance. He cleared his throat. You can sit if you want." She looked around the room slowly before lowering herself onto the bench. Her posture remained straight, as if she refused to let her circumstances bend her spirit. Jonas decided to start with something simple. "I'm Jonas," he said carefully. "I don't know what you've heard about humans, but I'm not here to harm you." Her eyes lifted to meet his. She studied him with an expression that was neither cold nor warm, simply calm. "You are human," she said quietly, her voice musical but tired. "Yes, I know of your kind." Her accent was elegant, the tone steady. Even weakened, she still sounded like someone who once commanded whole star systems. Jonas nodded slowly. "Then you know we don't usually deal with prisoners. I honestly didn't choose this. They wanted to make fun of both of us." A faint, almost invisible flicker passed through her expression. Not quite a smile, but something close to understanding. "They enjoy cruelty," she replied. "And they fear what they cannot control." Jonas leaned against the wall, unsure if he should approach. He felt uncomfortable seeing her forced into a space that wasn't meant for living beings. "I'm sorry you ended up like this." For the first time, the Queen lowered her gaze. Her voice softened. "My empire is gone. My people scattered. Apologies are meaningless now." Jonas hesitated, then slowly approached her. He noticed a small crack in the energy band around her wrist. It sparked weakly. Clearly damaged, he pointed to it. "May I fix this? It looks unsafe." "You could get hurt." She blinked, surprised. "You would repair the device that binds me?" "I don't like seeing anyone hurt," Jonas replied simply. After a short pause, she extended her wrists. Jonas carefully took the band and examined it. He worked slowly, explaining each step so she wouldn't be startled. She watched him closely, studying his face, his hands, and the gentle way he handled the device. When he finished, the band stopped sparking. "There," Jonas said. "Safe." Sarastra lifted her wrists, looking at the repaired band. Her voice was quiet but sincere. "Thank you, human." "Jonas," he corrected with a small smile. "Just Jonas." She nodded. "Jonas." For a moment, the room felt strangely peaceful. Jonas stepped back. "If you need anything, food, water, rest, just tell me. I'll make sure you get it." She tilted her head slightly, observing him with something like curiosity again. "You are different from the others." "Different how?" Her eyes softened. "They look at me and see a trophy. You look at me and see a person." Jonas didn't know what to say. He scratched the back of his neck. "Well, you are a person, and you're in a difficult position. I won't treat you badly." The Queen slowly straightened her shoulders. For the first time, something bright flickered in her eyes. Something like dignity. Faint, but returning. "Then perhaps," she said quietly, "this joke of theirs will not break either of us." Jonas met her gaze and felt a strange sense of responsibility settle in his chest. He didn't know what the Legion expected him to do with her. But he did know one thing. He would not let their cruelty define this situation. He would treat her with respect. He would help her stand again, even if no one else believed she deserved that chance. And somewhere in the quiet engineering room, the fallen Queen began to feel something she had not felt since her empire collapsed. The first small spark of hope. Jonas woke early the next morning. even before the ship's lights shifted to daytime mode. He felt strangely nervous as he prepared for the day. Usually, he enjoyed the quiet routine of engineering work, checking power lines, repairing consoles, or cleaning worn-out parts. But now he had a new responsibility. One the Legion gave him as a joke, and one he took far more seriously than they expected. He walked down the long metallic corridor toward the engineering suite where Queen Sarastra was being kept. He wondered if she slept much. When he had left her last night, she had been sitting calmly on the bench, hands resting on her lap, looking far more composed than any prisoner he had ever seen. She accepted her situation with dignity, even though the Legion wanted her to feel broken. Jonas stopped outside the door and took a breath before entering. Inside, Sarastra was awake, sitting exactly where he left her. She turned her head slightly when she heard the door, her silver eyes steady and unreadable. "You did not sleep much," Jonas said gently. She studied him for a moment before replying. "Sleep is difficult when one is adjusting to new surroundings." Jonas nodded. "I brought you some food. I know it's not Valyrian cuisine, but it's the best I can request without causing trouble." He placed a tray on the small table in the corner. It held simple items: hydration gel, nutrient blocks, and a warm drink. Basic, but clean and safe. The Queen examined the tray slowly. "You prepare this yourself?" "No," Jonas said honestly. "But I made sure they didn't give you anything careless." She walked over to the table with calm steps. "Kindness from a stranger is a rare thing in the galaxy." "I'm not sure if kindness is rare," Jonas replied. "I just know it's needed." 8. Sarastra took a small taste of the nutrient block. Her expression remained neutral, but she did not seem displeased. Jonas watched her quietly, trying not to look awkward. He still wasn't used to sharing a room with someone who had once ruled dozens of star systems. After a moment, she spoke again. "Humans are unusual. Many species rise slowly when they join the galactic community, but your kind pushes forward with great speed." Quote. Jonas smiled a little. "We like learning, and we don't like giving up." "Yes," Sarastra said softly. "That is what makes the Legion fear you. They fear anything they cannot fully control." Jonas sat on the repair table. "Do you fear them?" Her eyes lowered for a moment. "I fear nothing for myself, but I fear for those who trusted me. My people believed I could protect them." Jonas heard the quiet pain in her voice. Not the pain of losing a throne, but the pain of losing responsibility over lives. "Maybe you still can," Jonas said carefully. She lifted her eyes again. "I have no power now. My empire has shattered." "Empires can rebuild," Jonas said. "And sometimes strength begins in small places, like this room." Jonas enters 72C. Jonas 72C. Sarastra studied him longer this time, as if trying to understand why a human engineer believed she still had value. Most other species dismissed her as finished. But Jonas didn't see someone defeated. He saw someone pushed down who deserved the chance to stand again. Their quiet moment ended when the door suddenly opened. 3 Legion officers stepped inside, smirks on their faces. Jonas quickly stood up. The lead officer, a tall insectoid alien, spoke with irritation. "Human. Why is the prisoner standing freely? You did not bind her correctly." Jonas frowned. "She doesn't need heavy restraints. She hasn't done anything." One of the officers laughed. "You sound proud. Are you trying to impress her?" Jonas ignored the insult. "I'm doing what is right." The officer stepped closer, his voice sharp. "You were given this prisoner as a joke, human. Do not forget that. She is dangerous." Sarastra's posture stiffened. She did not move or react aggressively, but her presence changed. Even without her old power, she still carried the aura of a queen. The officer noticed and narrowed his eyes. "Careful, fallen one," he sneered. "You have no throne here." Jonas felt anger rise in his chest. He stepped between the officer and the queen. "She's under my responsibility. Don't treat her like an animal." The officers were surprised. A human standing up to them was unexpected. The insectoid officer hissed in annoyance. You defend her? Very well, human. But if she causes any problem, you will answer for it. Jonas nodded but kept his jaw tight. When the officers finally left and the door closed, the room felt calmer again. Sarastra watched Jonas with quiet interest. You risk trouble for me. I risk trouble because cruelty is wrong, Jonas answered simply. And because you deserve respect. A faint warmth appeared in her eyes. Long ago, in my empire, I valued loyalty above rank or skill. And yet, it is a human engineer who shows loyalty when I have nothing to offer. Jonas sat again, trying not to look embarrassed. It's not loyalty. It's just the right thing. Sarastra slowly returned to the bench, but her posture was different now, not stiff, not defeated, but a little more relaxed. Jonas decided to give her something to do, something that might help her mind stay sharp. He picked up a small, damaged device from the table. This is an old stabilizer chip from the engine bay. Would you like to see it? She blinked, surprised. You offer me technology? Just to examine. You can pass the time. I thought you might be interested. She held out her hand. Jonas placed the chip in her palm. Her fingers were delicate but precise. She turned the device slowly, studying its design. This is human craftsmanship, she said. Yeah, it's simple compared to your empire's tech, I'm sure. Sarastra shook her head. Simple. Yes, but clever. Humans build with adaptation in mind. Your species expects change, so your technology prepares for it. Jonas smiled. That's a nice way to put it. She handed the chip back with care. Your people may go far if you keep this mindset. The rest of the morning passed with quiet conversation. Jonas told her about human cities, oceans, and history. Sarastra shared small details about her world, its floating gardens, its crystal structures, and the role of honor in her empire. She did not speak of the war, or of how she was betrayed. Those wounds were still too deep, but she spoke. That alone meant progress. Later, Jonas checked the energy band again. He noticed tiny fractures that hadn't been there before. Not from struggle, more like the device was old and poorly maintained. These bands are all low quality, Jonas muttered. I should replace this before it breaks. Sarastra looked concerned. If it breaks, they will accuse me. Exactly, Jonas said. That's why I'll fix it. He worked carefully while she watched. Her eyes followed every movement, not suspiciously, but curiously. When he finished, she spoke softly. You care more for my safety than they do. Someone has to. Why you? She asked gently. Why does a human engineer show concern for a fallen queen? Jonas paused. Because I don't believe people lose their worth when they lose their power. Sarastra inhaled slowly, as if the words touched something deeper inside her. She sat quietly for a long moment, then finally said, Jonas, in my empire, there was a tradition. When someone showed true respect, the queen would acknowledge them with a gesture of trust. Jonas blinked. A gesture? She nodded once. A small one, but meaningful. She placed her hand over her heart, then extended it slightly toward him. It was elegant, calm, and full of meaning. Jonas didn't know the exact tradition, but he understood enough. He nodded respectfully. Thank you. Their moment was interrupted by a sudden alarm echoing through the ship. Jonas stood quickly. What's happening? Sarastra listened carefully. Not an attack. Something internal. Jonas activated the terminal to check the alert. A message appeared. Engine bay malfunction, power fluctuation, danger of overheating. Jonas felt his pulse quicken. If the engine overheated, parts of the ship could shut down or worse. I have to go, Jonas said urgently. But you'll be safe here. To his surprise, Sarastra stepped forward. Be cautious. The Legion may not value you, but your life matters. Jonas gave her a grateful nod before rushing out of the room. Left alone, Sarastra looked around the small engineering suite again. For the first time since her capture, she did not feel like a discarded prisoner, because someone, unexpectedly, believed she was still worth something. And for a queen who had lost everything, that simple truth lit a spark inside her, a spark strong enough to begin rebuilding the strength she thought was gone forever. Jonas ran through the narrow metal corridors as the warning lights flashed red. The sound of alarms echoed everywhere, bouncing off the walls like sharp waves. He knew the ship's engine systems better than most Legion officers, and the alert message had been clear: something serious was happening in the engine bay. A power fluctuation that strong could cause a shutdown, or even worse, an explosion if left ignored. As he reached the main control door, 2 Legion soldiers stood there, arguing loudly. "I told you it's just a sensor error," one shouted. "And I told you sensors don't scream like this," the other snapped. Jonas pushed through them. "Move. I'm the engineer. Let me check." They hesitated, annoyed at taking orders from a human, but the alarm behind them convinced them to step aside. Jonas slid into the engine bay and felt heat brush against his face immediately. Something was wrong for sure. The room glowed with a harsh orange light from the unstable core. Sparks danced from exposed wires, and a loud hum shook the floor. Jonas hurried to the main console and typed quickly, studying the readings. Overheating in Chamber 3, coolant flow dropping, pressure rising. This is bad. He grabbed a thermal glove and climbed up the side of the reactor chamber. His mind raced as he checked connections, pipes, and energy regulators. He had fixed many systems on this ship, but this was the worst malfunction he had seen. Jonas found the problem: a coolant valve stuck halfway open. A simple issue, but dangerous if ignored. He tried to force it back into position, but the heat was too high. He gritted his teeth. "Come on, move." Behind him, the door slid open. Jonas didn't look back. "I said stay outside, it's not safe," he shouted, but the footsteps were not heavy like a soldier's. They were light, graceful. Sarastra stood in the doorway, her silver eyes glowing softly in the red alarm light. "I followed the path of the alarm. You are in danger." Jonas nearly dropped his tool in shock. "Sarastra, why did you come here? It's not safe. You shouldn't be near the engine." She entered anyway, walking slowly, studying the engine with calm interest. "You are struggling. Tell me what you need." Jonas wiped the sweat from his forehead. "I need to open this valve fully, but the temperature is too high. The metal expands and sticks." "Then let me assist," she said simply. Jonas blinked. "You can't. The Legion will." "The Legion is not here," she replied. "And if this ship explodes, it affects both of us." He knew she was right. He sighed and pointed. "I need you to pull this lever upward when I say. But be careful, it's hot." Sarastra reached out. Her hands glowed faintly as she touched the metal surface. A soft energy shimmered around her fingers. Jonas frowned. What is that?" "A faint remnant of my old power," she said. "I cannot use it fully, but I can endure more heat than most." Jonas nodded quickly. "Okay. On my signal." He positioned himself at the base of the valve. 1, 2, now. Sarastra pulled with strength he didn't expect. The valve groaned, metal screeching, before suddenly snapping into its open position. The alarms quieted. The temperature readings dropped rapidly. The orange glow softened into a normal blue tone. Jonas let out a long breath of relief. "You did it. We did it." Sarastra stepped back, her face calm but her hands trembling slightly. Jonas noticed the small shakes and quickly grabbed a cloth. "You're hurt," he said. "Even with your resistance." The heat was too strong. She lifted her hands, studying the faint burns. "Pain is temporary. The danger is gone." Jonas gently wrapped the cloth around her palms. "You shouldn't risk yourself like that, and you should not risk yourself alone," she replied softly. For a few quiet moments, they stood close, the engine humming softly behind them. Jonas felt strange, grateful, relieved, and oddly touched. Not because she helped him, but because she chose to help him even when she gained nothing from it. When they left the engine bay, the Legion soldiers watched them with suspicious eyes. One soldier whispered to the other, "Did you see that?" She followed the human. They are getting close, the other replied darkly. Jonas ignored them and guided Sarastra back to the engineering suite. When they entered, she sat on the bench, and Jonas knelt to check her hands again. You really didn't have to help, Jonas said. If something happened to you, then it would be my choice, Sarastra interrupted gently. You treat me with respect. I wanted to show the same. Jonas felt warmth rising in his chest. He wasn't sure what to say. He tightened the cloth gently around her palms. Does it hurt? Not as much as the silence of being forgotten, she answered. He understood that in ways he couldn't explain. Later that day, Sarastra rested, while Jonas repaired loose cables and damaged systems. He kept glancing at her, making sure she was comfortable. She noticed. Of course, you watch me often, she said. Jonas blushed slightly. I just want to make sure you're okay. No one cares if I am okay, she said softly. I do, Jonas replied without hesitation. Sarastra looked at him for a long time. That is what confuses me most about humans. Why? You value the small things. A moment of kindness. A small victory. A single person. In the galaxy, power is measured by force, but you measure power by choice. Jonas smiled weakly. Maybe that's why the Legion keeps underestimating us. Sarastra's eyes glimmered. It is why they fear you more than you realize. Their conversation ended when a soft vibration passed through the ship. Jonas looked around. Did you feel that? Yes, Sarastra said quietly. Something moved outside the ship. 7 moments later, a sudden announcement echoed over the speakers. All personnel report to stations. Unknown vessel approaching. Jonas and Sarastra exchanged worried glances. A few minutes passed before Jonas received a direct message on his console, one he was not meant to see. Incoming vessels. Valyrian loyalists detected. Attempting to retrieve the Queen. Jonas froze. Loyalists. They're coming for you. Sarastra stood slowly. Her breath caught for a moment. My people. Some survived. Jonas turned to her. This could be good. Maybe they want to rescue you. Sarastra shook her head. Or they want to silence me. Some loyalists believe I failed them. Jonas stepped closer. What do you want? Her expression softened as she looked at him. I do not know. I wanted to save them. I wanted peace. But now, I only want truth. Jonas nodded. Then we face this together. Her eyes widened slightly. You would stand with me? Against the Legion? Against unknown allies or enemies? Jonas didn't hesitate. Yes, you're not alone. Sarastra stared at him with a mixture of surprise and something deeper, something she had not allowed herself to feel since the fall of her empire. Trust. Before they could speak further, the ship jolted violently. The lights flickered. Alarms blared again. Impact detected, the ship broadcasted. Jonas grabbed Sarastra's hand without thinking and pulled her toward the door. We need to move. Where? She asked. To the secondary control room, Jonas said. If someone is boarding, that's where we'll know. She followed him, her steps fast and decisive. Jonas felt adrenaline pump through his chest. He wasn't a soldier, but he couldn't let her face danger alone. When they reached the secondary control room, several Legion officers were arguing loudly. Jonas stayed near the back, but Sarastra watched them with sharp eyes. One officer shouted, "The Valyrian ships demand we release the Queen." Another yelled, "We'll never surrender our trophy." Sarastra turned to Jonas. If they refuse, there will be a battle. Lives will be lost on both sides. Jonas clenched his fists. We need another way, she nodded. A different path. One no one expects. Their eyes met. A human engineer and a fallen queen, two people the galaxy overlooked. But together, they could change everything. And as the ship shook again and the alarms grew louder, Jonas knew one thing for sure. They were no longer part of a joke. They were part of something much bigger. The next morning began with a strange silence across the outpost. The lights that usually flickered with old wiring were steady. The hallways were calm. and even the usual hum of machinery felt softer. It was as if the entire place was holding its breath. Ethan woke up earlier than usual, feeling a quiet energy in the air. He knew something important would happen soon. The promise he made to Lyra the previous night was still warm inside him, and he felt a clear purpose he had never felt before in any other assignment. He walked out of his small room and found Lyra already awake, standing near the main balcony. She was staring at the horizon with a calm but focused expression. She sensed him approach and turned slightly. Her eyes held strength again, not the broken emptiness she once carried when she first arrived. Ethan felt proud seeing her like that. She told him that, during the night, she felt something familiar. Her people were close. Maybe even already in the system. She said she could sense echoes of their communication. Faint, but recognizable. Ethan understood that everything was going to change soon. She thanked him again, softly, for helping her reach this moment. But he stopped her gently and told her she had lifted herself, and he only held the ladder steady. They shared a quiet moment before the alarm suddenly broke the silence. Red lights circled the walls, and the mechanical voice announced an unidentified fleet entering the sector. Ethan and Lyra ran toward the command center, where the other guards and officers were gathering in panic. The screens lit up with images of several large alien ships, their shapes sharp and elegant, shimmering with a faint blue glow. The officers shouted to prepare defensive systems, but the outpost was too weak to hold a fight against even one of those ships, let alone the entire fleet. Lyra stepped forward, and everyone froze. The officers looked terrified, unsure whether she would attack them or help them. Ethan stood next to her, silently supporting her presence. She spoke in a calm voice, saying the ships belonged to her people, the Aelith Dominion, but they were not here for war. They were searching for her. One of the senior officers tried to argue that they should hide her because she could be dangerous. But Ethan interrupted him with unusual force and made it clear that they owed her respect now, not fear. Lyra told the officer that if the outpost tried to resist the fleet, even by accident, it would end badly for them. She suggested she go outside, alone, to show herself, and Ethan quickly said he would go with her. She seemed worried for a moment but then nodded. Both of them walked toward the landing platform as the first of the Aelith ships slowly descended. The sky shimmered with blue energy, and the air grew warm, like the space around them was adjusting to the ship's presence. The vessel landed quietly, and a long, curved ramp extended down. Figures in silver-blue armor walked out first, forming a line of guards. Behind them came a tall alien, with deep, glowing markings and a royal presence. His expression shifted the moment he saw Lyra. He walked forward and stopped several steps away. He bowed his head deeply, something Ethan never expected to witness. The guards behind him lowered their weapons and kneeled. Ethan looked at Lyra and saw her holding her breath. She did not bow back. Instead, she stood with steady calmness, as if this moment belonged to her. The tall alien spoke in their language, and Lyra answered. Ethan couldn't understand the words, but he could understand the emotion. The alien leader seemed to be apologizing. Lyra's voice was steady, but her eyes softened slightly. When they finished, Lyra translated for Ethan. The leader had explained that when she had fallen from power long ago, political forces within her own people turned against her. They spread lies, forcing her into isolation and, eventually, abandonment. But now the truth was revealed. They learned she had been betrayed, not defeated. They came to restore her status and bring her back with honor. Ethan watched her carefully. She had wished for belonging, for identity. But he also knew that going back meant leaving the outpost, leaving Earth forces, and leaving him. The alien leader then asked her if she would return to reclaim her rightful place. He promised her full support, forgiveness, and authority. The guards all brought their fists to their chests. A gesture of loyalty. She paused. The silence felt like it stretched across the galaxy. She looked at Ethan. The alien leader noticed her silence and asked who Ethan was. Lyra explained simply that the human beside her was the reason she was still alive. the reason she stood before them with strength, the reason she believed she could lead again. The alien leader studied Ethan, his eyes tracing the human's posture and expression. He gave a small nod of approval. The kind of nod a king gives when recognizing an unexpected hero. Lyra asked Ethan to walk with her to the edge of the platform where no one else could hear them. The wind brushed past them, carrying dust and soft warmth. She told him she never expected to reach this moment, never expected her people to return, and never expected her place in the galaxy to be waiting for her. But she also said that all of this felt heavy because she did not want to lose someone who had treated her as more than a broken prisoner. Ethan told her quietly that she didn't owe him anything. He said she had a chance to rebuild her life, to lead her people again, and she deserved that. He said he would be proud to see her rise, even if he was just watching from far away. His voice was steady, but his chest felt tight. He didn't want her to leave either, but he knew she needed to find her true place. She told him something he didn't expect. She said that her people respected strength, loyalty, and honor above all else. And that in their culture, the person who lifts a fallen leader back to her feet becomes a part of her legacy forever. She said she did not want him to watch from far away. She wanted him to walk beside her. Ethan was stunned. She explained that if he wished, he could come with her not as a servant, not as a guard, but as someone who helped her become whole again. She said her people would respect him because she respected him. Ethan asked if humans were even allowed among her people. She told him that if she reclaimed her throne, he would be allowed anywhere she wished. He thought about the outpost, the emptiness of his old life, the simple routines that brought little meaning. Then he looked at Lyra, the hope in her eyes, the strength that now replaced her earlier sadness, and the future she offered. He took a deep breath and said yes. When they walked back toward the fleet, the alien guard stepped aside with a clear show of respect. The leader announced loudly in their native tongue that the rightful queen had returned. The guards echoed his call, raising their weapons high. Lyra straightened her posture with confidence Ethan had never seen before. She walked up the ramp of the ship with Ethan beside her. The leader followed behind. The ship's doors closed slowly, and the engines hummed with soft blue light. The outpost soldiers watched in awe as the vessel rose into the air, carrying two figures who had started from nothing but ended with everything. Ethan looked out of the window as the barren land grew distant. Lyra stood beside him, her gaze steady and full of purpose. She told him gently that this was only the beginning. Her people would need guidance, peace, direction, and a leader who cared. She promised that he would have a place in helping shape their future. Ethan didn't know what challenges would come, but he knew he wasn't afraid. They had walked through pain, doubt, and silence together. And now they were rising toward a new world. The fleet turned in formation and moved into the stars, leaving the outpost far behind. Ethan stood straight, feeling the weight of a new destiny settling on his shoulders. Beside him stood a queen who had fallen once but would never fall again. She had been given to him as a harsh joke, but together, they rose higher than anyone expected, and the galaxy waited for what they would become next.